the browser platform, it's a real complex product in sort of social media clothing. So it's kind of easy to get into because the market we're shooting for is like 300 million people. It's the whole Zynga audience, it's like big. So we haven't sold to Zynga, we're not a part of Zynga, but we are using their network as a distribution partner to launch into because it's a massive audience. And but it's a very in-depth and complex game, and the things it does technologically are pretty amazing, behind the scenes. And that's what's taken so long.
Now, in the case of Star Citizen, I think he has realized that all of the stuff you talked about is causing developers to just go crazy on all these different platforms and forget the original.
Right. Yeah.
There are like less games just for the PC.
Right.
Just use the video card.
Right. No, Chris is just doubling down
go
on
for the original old goal.
Right.
And people are wondering, what am I going to buy? That shrinking base is, don't get me wrong, it's a shrinking base, but it's still enough to sell a lot of copies if you're an individual game maker.
I wouldn't even say it's a shrinking base, because people that are into PCs and understand that's where the real power of graphics and sound and processor.
Yeah, because that's really where it is.
It's all lodged there. Right. I mean, they're never going to stop. You don't get that. I mean, as
it's about heat.
As really great as your smartphone is and your tablet is, it's still not a kick-ass PC.
It's about heat. The PC generates more heat than
everything else. Yes, it does. Yes.
And you can't have the same. They can put the same power into a smartphone, but you'd have to drop it on the ground. It would be so hot.
Right.
If it was really doing all that polygon stuff. So it's all dialed down, so it never gets really that hot.
Right.
But the box this size has a fan blowing hot air out the back like a hairdryer,
Right. Well, in these days, with great screens to be able to, experience this on. I mean, like a big, giant.
They got 4K televisions coming out now.
Right.
So computers are really the only source material.
Right.
They haven't even got TV stations that make 4K content, so the television's kind of ahead of the curve. I think games are going to be one of the places where you're going to see content. So he's in a good spot to exploit.
Totally. I mean, we talked about that earlier this year as he was weighing, whether to go more mass market or go double down for the hardcore audience. And he just said, no, I want to be a big fish in a smaller pond and really deliver on the opportunities.
There's hardly been any space games in a long time. And
right.
There's one big space game out in the market right now, but there's enough room for more than one space game. It's kind of a forgotten genre, Everything's about guys running around in a landscape.
Right.
Whether it's a cop or a vigilante or whatever the theme is. There's a guy on a landscape with city blocks or countryside or whatever it is. It's not space. People that are into space, they watch Star Trek, they watch Babylon 5, they watch, a lot of TV shows. They don't have a game.
And we're going to Mars now,
So, look at all that stuff. Mars stuff is amazing.
Yeah. And
with all the technology.
And for those of you who are into South by Southwest at all, in South by Southwest in Austin in the spring, I was just talking to the head of South by Southwest Interactive the other evening at an event, and he said, interestingly, they've got a big space focus on technology having to do with space and really pushing the frontiers and where the future is going. And some of the investors that we work with at Portalarium at Founders Fund out in San Francisco, they're great. If you're going to take VC capital, there's some good companies you can partner with, and Founders Fund is one of those companies that's, as their name implies, they are really, really involved with the founders themselves. All the people involved with Founders Fund are, former principals in technology companies. Peter Thiel, at the top of them, is, the first investor in Mark Zuckerberg's little venture, and so many other things. And they kind of created PayPal as it was their original claim to fame, but they're investors in SpaceX and in Tesla, and they're working on behind Singularity University, which is some of the most brilliant PhDs in the world that come together and solve major problems, and DNA research and cancer cure solutions. I mean, big stuff, really pushing the envelope, and they are doubling down on space, and that's going to be a big theme, is basically where I'm going with that. It's South by Southwest.
And when is that? Is that March?
In March.
March
Here in Austin. Yeah. Great festival. If you haven't ever been to it, folks, there's...
is it sxsw.com?
Yeah, SXSW, South by Southwest.
Go check that out for everyone around the world.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great 9-day-long party in Austin, and it starts off with 5 days of just interactive conferences and trade show and parties, and I mean, it takes over the whole city. And then there's 5 days of music with
bands trying to get contracts.
Yeah, well, there's
plus also a lot of established ones that are kind of old.
Oh yeah.
Older acts now.
Yeah, well, relaunching themselves. You know, a lot of amazing talent coming back, and people like David Bowie that is just constantly reinventing the creative opportunity for himself, so it's
and then film too.
Interactive, and it's music back to back, and then film underlies the entire week. So because films just take longer to consume the content, it takes the whole 9 days. So it's just a great event.
Yeah. So how do you see Star System, from what you've seen so far? How do you see it growing into the marketplace and succeeding?
I just...
Great question.
Yeah, well, I think everybody that's watching this particular webcast already knows that answer.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and again, it's done in Chris Roberts' style. There's nobody else. I mean, my wife, who's sitting here too, Shelley, as she's made her donation and her pledge, and she gets all the emails, and she's checking, and she's never played any space combat games. She's just like really interested in the whole concept, and so she gets all these daily emails and newsletters and stuff from Chris and from Roberts Space Industries, and she's going, how does this man think of all this stuff? I mean, just the details and the attention to detail, and the fiction just hangs together, and the storytelling is brilliant. I mean, Chris is just a master at this stuff, and
plus he's consumed. He was 20 hours every day.
He's a total tireless workaholic. I mean, everybody who is pledging money here knows that they're going to get their money's worth and a whole lot more.
He's not a
from a Chris Roberts product, not at all. And it's not like he delegates to some minion somewhere while he goes off.
No, he's really
and
doing
plays golf.
I can say from personal experience, he's the main programmer on this game.
Of course he is, yeah.
And I was pretty proud to see him come back to programming after 10 years in the film business.
Absolutely. But he's been doing it for the last 3 years, just on the side quietly at night. I mean, we've
warming up.
Yeah, totally. I mean, he's just been following all the technologies and all the engines, and trying to figure out which platforms he wanted to use and which ones were better than others.
But the last game he was a programmer on was Strike Command. On Wing Commander 3, he wasn't a programmer.
That's true.
That was Frank Savage, if you recall.
It's probably in the credits down here,
Probably down there,
Yeah.
But he hasn't programmed seriously since like '94.
Yeah.
And then all the way up to 2009, you're saying he started getting back into it?
I'm sorry?
From '94 to 2009 or so, he was just doing other stuff.
Right.
And decided to pick up programming again.
Yeah, but
and now he's the main guy driving this Cry engine and making everything happen. It's really a Chris Roberts
making
product.
it cry. Yeah.
When you see the demo, it's Chris's code running the demo.
Right.
Nobody else programming it.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly
something to be proud of.
That's exactly how he made the original Wing Commander.
Yeah,
he wouldn't let any of us look at it. He was
slaved.
He was in it. He did Bad Blood during the day and was directing that, and had a few people working on that. And at night, he would just go close his door.
I did not know that. He was working on both.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but he would not show Wing Commander to anybody for months until he got it to a state where he felt it was ready to be.
The whole key of Wing Commander was
by the time we saw
drawing them in 3D but making them 2D, so it looked like a 3D game.
Right. I mean, by the time we saw it, it already had flight. It had action. I mean, he was shooting at enemies. It had a rudimentary cockpit design.
Right, cool.
I mean, we already just looked at it on his little monitor and went,
and you were like,
wow, what the hell?